How does your personality play out in your world of work? Think about your identity as a story that you've really kind of created throughout your lifetime about who you are, what your leanings are, what your motivations are. And the power of the Enneagram as a personality tool is that it can help us not only understand ourselves, but other people. And in the world of work in particular, you can think about it as helping you better understand what really motivates people. So, what we're going to do in today's session is we're going to talk about each of the types and their core motivations and key characteristics and traits. And that's going to help you continue to refine that self-identification process. So if you're still not too sure about your type, something may really ring true today and really sound like it's spot on, in which case you'll be going down the right road and really better understanding your core type. I like to think of the type as kind of the spirit of who you are, the essence of who you are, and the story, like I said, about your identity. So I'm going to just share a document with you that will kind of lead us through that process today. And it will allow us to go through each of the different types. So beginning with type 1, that would be the perfectionist reformer. Keep in mind that that type is typically motivated by the need to do the right thing, to be accurate and really live the right way. So this person is typically filled with very high principles and values, and they're often known as reformers because what they tend to do is they're not only trying to improve themselves, but they're trying to improve the world around them. And that would include your workplace environment. So think about the fact that if you are a type 1, what are the things that you're trying to do in your world of work? Is it that you are trying to improve group dynamics? Are you trying to improve project management? Do you have some kind of strategic plan that is visionary? So think about the kinds of things you are doing, but then think about the way in which you're going about that through your particular personality. And just realize that not everyone is a perfectionist reformer. So they may not be that focused on accuracy. They may not be that focused on ethics and principles like you are. And they may not be looking to reform or change the workplace environment. Now, in terms of the healthy traits of the ones are generally wise and discerning and noble. So those can be characteristics that really help your teammates. You are also typically very reliable and idealistic. You're fair-minded. The one can be very orderly, rational, and principled. Self-controlled, which can be good because they're not going to get into a heated argument. They're going to be more patient and balanced. They are typically very responsible and conscientious. And in their communications, they tend to be very clear and precise, and very accurate. And as ones, they are generally very industrious because they have this high aspirational goal of reforming things. They want to put things into action. They want to get things moving. So if you are a 1, just remember the message to yourself that everything is good. You are good. You are perfect just the way you are. Try to ease up on yourself because many times the 1 is extremely hard on themselves because they do have such high and unrelenting standards. The next type is the 2, the giver-helper. And the giver-helper is typically motivated by the need to be valued within the team. And in many cases, they want to be liked. Maybe at work, they don't necessarily need to be loved, but they really want that positive outlook. They want positive feelings towards other people, and they want those feelings coming back to them. A giver helper can be incredibly instrumental in teamwork and team building because they get everybody to feel good, number one, and they get everybody feeling good about one another and expressing their feelings in a positive way. And because they are such great relationship oriented people, they're unselfish. They're often very altruistic, and they're not conditional in their care and concern for you at work. They tend not to be judgmental. They tend to really reserve judgment and really look at everyone in a very open-minded way. Now, that's not to say that the giver helper can't be introspective. They can be extremely refined, and they can use their intuition and hunches to move things along. But they are typically very warm and creative. You will find them to be demonstrative and empathetic and caring. They're generous with their time, maybe to a fault. Sometimes, they put their own needs second and put the needs of the team first. So it's very important that, everyone teams up and is supportive if you have a giver helper in your team so that they don't do the lion's share. They also can be great mentors because they're generally very good advisors. They're very nurturing, and they're very responsible, and they're very expressive of their feelings. And those feelings are generally heartfelt. They are authentic. They are real. The giver helper is really always in that process of, trying to give to others and putting a high value on that gift. Now, if you are a 2, just remember that you're really wanted for who you are, and that there is this process of giving and receiving. And so make sure that your life is in balance and that there is as much input as there is output. And that, you realize that you are a wonderful person and you are wanted just for who you are, not because you are giving all the time. The third type is the performer achiever. And in the United States, the performer achiever is a pretty common type to be because culturally and conditionally, both men and women are encouraged to be highly productive and achieve success. And 3s really, they want to shine. They want to do the right thing. They want to stand out. They want to be productive. They want to get it done. And so it's really good to have a performer achiever on the team because they're going to get everybody to, get things moving and be output oriented. So in terms of traits, 3s are generally very self-accepting. They do like the fact that they are high achievers generally. They can be very authentic at their healthiest level. That authenticity can lead to inspiration and being top leadership role models. They are very competitive because of that success orientation. At the same time, they can be very adaptable and industrious. They are typically fast-paced, so it may be tough to keep up with the pace of the 3. They can be very efficient and confident, and they have a high competency level. Their concern for the team and for you shows through their actions. So if you are a 3, sometimes you're showing your concern for others by getting things done. And you think that that's a value and everybody should recognize that. But they may not be keeping up with you. They may be trailing behind at the level of ambition and competency and task orientation. So just remember that the 3 can be a little bit more output oriented versus people driven. So if you are a 3, just remember to balance that output with people. And the message that the three really needs to embody and embrace is that, you know what, you're valued just because of who you are, not just because of all that you are doing. In a way, it's somewhat similar to the two. The two is focused on all that they are giving, but the three is focused on all that they are doing. And your value is not just based on what you do. It's based on who you are as a person. So once again, output versus people, and keeping that balance will be very critical. Now, the type 4 is the romantic individualist, and this type is generally motivated by the need to experience their feelings. And fours really want to be understood. They want to be authentic. They want to be special. And they have a need to be acknowledged for those differences that they bring to the table. So if you are a romantic individualist, just remember that, not everyone may get you. Not everyone is focused on doing something special or unique or new. But many of your traits can serve a team well. Fours can provide inspiration. They can add creativity. They can be transformational. And they are change agents. They can get people to make those important major shifts and changes. They can be highly intuitive. They generally love aesthetics, so they lean towards how things should look and feel. They can be idealistic, like the one. And sometimes they can be a bit overly sensitive, but that sensitivity can also lead them to be very empathetic and very caring. It also can lead to a certain kind of intensity and passion. And that's good for a team too. You need that enthusiasm. You need that intensity. And you need that authenticity. You need people in your team saying, hey, get real, do the right thing, look within, be introspective, be expressive. Let's do something different. Let's do something offbeat. And the four can also be extremely dedicated because they are so passionate about what they are doing. They're often highly dedicated. Once they kick into their interests in the world of work, they're highly dedicated. So just remember, if you're a four, you are special. You are seen. You are valued. Maybe not everyone will get you, but just remember that you are special just because of who you are. You don't have to, make any grand entrances or any grand exits in order for people to notice and acknowledge you. And just remember that you are valued just because you are who you are. Now, type 5 is the observer investigator, and the observer investigator is motivated by the need to know and understand. And fives tend to be very self-sufficient and investigative, in their search for knowledge and understanding. So an observer investigator in a team can be really valuable because that's the research arm. That's the person that's really going to dig into something, make sure they know it and understand it before they assimilate it and share their findings. If you do a lot of reports and data analysis, that person can be an amazing asset to your team because they can be very visionary. They can be pioneers because they see things in new ways. They make sure they really understand that big picture, that they get the detail, and they can be ahead of their times. So don't quickly dismiss a five. They may really be seeing something that the other teammates do not see. And they also have some really positive traits, such as being undemanding and caring for others quietly, not making a big to-do about the fact that they are, making contributions. They can be unobtrusive. They can also be very systematic and very analytical. And as I pointed out, that thoughtfulness can really prove to be an asset. And they're generally very concise once they do articulate their thoughts and ideas. So if you are a 5, just remember that your needs are not an issue, and it's okay to ask other people for help. Sometimes self-sufficiency can turn against us because it can isolate us from others. So make sure you're asking for enough help, and make sure that you don't feel like your needs are being ignored. Now, if you are a 6, you are kind of an interesting type in that 6s are motivated by a need for security, but there's 2 types of 6s. The one that can be outwardly fearful, that person that, is always looking at the downside of the situation, or there's the counterphobic type where they confront fears directly. That's the person that is afraid of heights but decides they're going to skydive. So that counterphobic type can lead to higher risk behaviors, whereas the outwardly fearful 6 tends to be more focused and pull back more. Neither one is better or worse than the other, and it's very important when you look at all the types to remember that no one type is better or worse than another, that ultimately at the healthiest level, we're a full integration of all types. But as young people, we started to lean into a personality that served us. It helped us survive. It helped us succeed. So something about your type is dominant. And it's leading you in a specific direction. And as you become more in tune with the Enneagram, you'll learn more about your wings, the types that align your type. You'll learn more about where you lean during stress and security. You'll learn about your subtypes. So it's a fairly complex personality type modeling. But the type 6 is really kind of interesting in that it has this counterphobic type and then this more fearful aspect, or this more skeptical or careful aspect. Maybe fear is not even the right word. In terms of traits, the 6 can be very stable, very loyal, confident, reliant, very trusting and trustworthy. And they can engage the team. They can get the team to be more inquisitive and more collaborative. Once again, like the 5, they tend to be a little more analytical. And they can be very persevering. They help you get up that hill. That vigilance and that perseverance is very, very helpful. And then, as I pointed out at the beginning, they can either be risk averse or overly risk taking. So a 6 can be really helpful because if your team tends to have a lot of high risk personality leanings to it, but you've got someone who's trying to kind of balance that, be a little more skeptical, step back a bit, be a little more analytical before taking those risks, that can be, a real benefit. So the 6 needs to remember that you're safe. You are safe and you can face your fears. And you don't really have to take unnecessary risks in order to face your fears. So there is this balance between being, overly risk-taking versus being risk averse. Now, if you are a 7, boy, you are motivated by that desire to be happy and enjoy life and really contribute to the world in both small and big ways. And every team should have an enthusiast, because the enthusiast keeps the focus on everybody's talents and their goals, sees the whole process as one big adventure. They can be extremely joyous and accomplished, and grateful and upbeat. They also can be very charming, caring for others, and exuberant. They can be a bit spontaneous and versatile, and they can be a great synthesizer of ideas and be very opportunity oriented. The one thing to watch about the sixes is because they are so excited about so many different things, they can get bored and drop projects and then move on to the next thing. So if you are a seven, kind of watch that tendency to get everybody excited, but stay the course with your excitement until you get to the finish line. So the message that I'd like the sevens to focus in on is allow others to support you. So don't go solo so that you can get to that finish line on projects that are of interest. And just remember that, you know, your focus is important. And also, because the enthusiast sometimes is a little concerned about, you know, keeping things so upbeat, they may, you know, not see a problem, and they may not want to face a problem at work. So it's important for type 7 to just not be avoidant of emotions or feelings that may be operating in the team. Type 8, protector, challenger, asserter, boss. I added a couple of different definitions of the type 8 because I think it's a rather complex type. It can take a lot of different variations, but typically the 8 is very self-reliant and strong and very independent. Those are true, but the 8 can be a challenger to a point where you feel like, whoa, gosh, you know, this is a little bit too much for me to deal with. They can be extremely assertive. They're in their own corner, and they can be very strong leaders and protective of their teams. So those are very, very positive traits. They have an incredible intensity to be self-mastering, to be magnanimous, to be great, and to exude that solid sense of self and be highly dynamic with a very high degree of stamina. They are take charge types, and like I said, they are protective typically of others. They are normally very self-confident, decisive, declarative. They do seek justice. So if you are, you know, in a discussion with an 8 about something centered around justice, they're going to look at it from that vantage point. Is this fair? Is this right? And they are going to be very assertive. So the 8s can be, you know, pretty intense at times. So look for, you know, that 8. Look for that 8 if you, that 8 tendency to take charge and to really take the team to the next level. So the 8, in terms of the message, just trust that others can figure things out on their own. Sometimes, you know, an 8, because they are take charge, may get a little impatient with others that aren't getting things done. And just realize that, you know, feelings, whether they're your own feelings or other people's, that's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of vulnerability. It's okay to be yourself and to evidence some vulnerability, to evidence your need for support, and to encourage others to do that as well. Now, type 9 is motivated by the need to keep peace and to avoid conflict. So 9s tend to be extremely collaborative. But keep in mind, the 9 is kind of an interesting type like the 6, in that the 6 has the counterphobic, but the 9 can take on the qualities of all 8 types because they're trying so hard to be mild-mannered and to get along and to be reassuring and to resolve conflict, that they tend to be, sort of um, an assemblage of all of the different types. They're typically very diplomatic. They can be very open-minded and empathic. They're great conflict solvers. They can help resolve conflicts in a team. They can be very peaceful and gentle and receptive and reassuring. But they can also be so apt to try to harmonize and adapt that they can be a little, maybe perhaps too pleasing and too affable, and then you don't really know where they stand. But they're trying to create comfort in the work environment. They're trying to be steadfast and to be humble and easygoing. They're trying to lower that intensity level. So having a peacemaker in the group can be extremely helpful because they're generally very, very patient and very enduring. They stay the course. But the message to the 9 is that your opinions and your voice and your presence matters. So don't be afraid to express your opinions. Don't be afraid to have a voice. Just by being present, you do matter. And you don't have to over-adapt in order to keep the pace and to be a key contributor. So the exercise I'd like to leave you with today is I'd like you to think about the traits from the list that we went over today and think about the ones that really stood out for you. And just jot a few notes of, the traits that really, really stood out. And then I encourage you to download this document if you'd like a copy. It's available through my shop on ApertureAdvisoryAssociates.com. And also, last but not least, I would just like to mention that Aperture Advisory Associates, we do offer individual advisory sessions, as well as group and team staff training workshops. We have a workshop available specifically for the Enneagram and how it can help elevate team performance. But we also offer other advisory and project services. So feel free to check out our website at apertureadvisory.com. We've got lots of great blogs. We do a lot of work with private schools, nonprofits, and small businesses. And we hope that this session was helpful to you today and that you'll continue to subscribe. We post on a regular basis every Sunday night at 5 p.m. and then periodically do sessions midweek. Thank you so much. And always remember, open your aperture, see that bigger picture. In this case, see the bigger picture of relationships and their interconnection to you in the world of work and how you are navigating your output, your performance, your communications, and your ability to resolve issues. So thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you soon.